Welcome to this week's Fantheon. This week we're going to be talking about the amazing news of the Lumberjanes Gotham Academy crossover and some other inter-company crossovers we'd like to see. And then we're going to go into some comics this week. We got Action Comics number 50. It's like a big pivotal issue in this Savage Dawn crossover that's been going on with like depowered Superman and like Vandal Savage oversaturation kind of stuff. And then we got Mockingbird number 1. Had less BDSM than I thought it would have. Boo. And All-New Wolverine number 6, which was amazing. And we're going to get pretty hyped about it. So yeah, so we got Terrence.
Hey, everybody. Oh, yes, and definitely you guys will see me at Chicago Comic-Con next weekend. So, yeah. Yes, I'm going to be there as Bulb, both Friday and Saturday I go. So it's gonna be amazing, and hopefully people recognize me and want to take pictures with me.
Actually, so I just realized the appropriateness of like a Yeezy-based outfit being in Chicago.
Yes,
I didn't put that all together before.
Yeah,
like I had them separately. I just didn't, put them together.
Cool. Yeah. So you're not reviewing. This is kind of a light week for you. So like no reviews or anything.
Right. This is a rare. I think it's like the calm before the storm, because next week I'm going to be knee deep in comics and creators and everything I love and care for.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, C2E2 is crazy. I mean, it was my first con. It's just, I met Kieran Gillen there and did my first creator interview with Amy Reeder. I was like, it was insane. I mean, it was like pretty, yeah, and it's like, I don't know, it's really fun. I like all the repop shows. They're pretty like intense and definitely draining, but so much to do, like pretty much.
Yeah, and plus a whole bunch of Twitter followers of mine are going, and I've never met them, so they're not serial killers. I confirmed it.
Yeah. And yeah, we'll definitely have definitely once you get back, we'll definitely have like full report on Fantheon. I mean, whenever that is. Cool. All right, and I am Logan Dalton, Sexy Digital Nerd on Twitter. And this week I reviewed New Adventure Time, which I realized how deep the Adventure Time canon is, and I was not
the abyss, to quote Method Man.
I was not ready for that at all. Like, I don't know.
I probably should.
Which I mean, like 200 plus episodes, it makes sense that it should be kind of convoluted a little bit. But
it's gotta be more than 200, isn't it? I feel like that show's been on.
Yeah, it's like 238 episodes. I like went on Wikipedia before, like when I was writing my article, and then plus you get 50 issues of the comic. So yeah, I even talked to Ian, the artist, on Facebook, and he's like, I didn't even understand some of this stuff. So pretty crazy.
Wait, sorry, McGinty did this issue?
Yeah, that's kind of why I reviewed it, because I'm a big fan of his, and he's a cool dude. Had some fun, some humorous moments. The art. And then I also got my Broad City review this week. Gonna do New Romancer. Gotta keep reviewing that because they got me on the cover of a DC comic. And then also I'm gonna be dipping into the realm of film and medieval literature with I'm actually writing an article about Zootopia and Beast Fables for Graphic Policy. So if you saw that movie, it's super dope. It's probably the best Disney movie, non-Pixar movie since Lion King.
I need to see Zootopia and then somehow see 10 Cloverfield Lane.
I don't know if I'm going to check that out. Maybe I might. It's kind of it's kind of lean time for movie. I need to see The Witch. That's what I need to see.
I need to see that with people, because I can't do that by myself.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Emma?
I'm Emma Houpois. It's funny talking about C2 being your first convention. Mine was San Diego in 06.
Get the biggest one right off the bat.
I just dove right in. First interviews, Sophie Campbell preview night. That was nuts.
So cool.
Derek Robertson. That was amazing. None of the audio was usable because we were like out on the floor the whole time. But that was Tom was dressed with a spider, so he would just be like, I created that dude. It was amazing. And then Stephen T. Siegel and Tim Seeley were the other interviews. I hit that So yeah, actually, so some people who are actually really popping off right now.
Oh yeah, like Tim Seeley, yeah, and Siegel's been big for a while. I mean, it's a bird.
Well, because Siegel, yeah, because he's also they have that Man of Action thing, and that was in '06. I think they were just popping off. They hadn't done what was that cartoon they had that was such a big deal? Because they did some Ben 10 stuff.
Ben 10 and Generator X.
Generator X, thank you. It was before Generator X anyway.
Yeah, I mean they're doing all the stuff for the Marvel cartoons, and actually I have a friend Jake who is like was part of them. He wasn't like one of the big guys, but I mean he definitely was writing for them. And I mean, and also like Joe Kelly was involved in it too.
Yeah,
Joe Kelly's Deadpool. I've been reading that off and on. It is someone that like
Case.
Yeah, so they're cool dudes.
Yeah, so those things. When I was interviewing Siegel, he was like, "Man, the booth." He was yelling at the Godland, Joe Casey. He was like, "Casey, man, the booth."
Oh yeah, gotta love that.
That was ill. Yeah, my week I actually thought it was gonna be pretty quiet, and it wasn't. So I'm hitting two out of the three of the books we're doing tonight. I'm doing Mockingbird and All-New Wolverine for.
You got Mockingbird up for Pop Optics. So definitely be looking forward to that as your editor at LOL.
Yeah, well now that I've read the issue, so am I. I didn't know. Like I really had no idea what to expect. Didn't read your preview, didn't read anything. All I kind of knew was that the Hellfire Club was starting up, so it was either going to rock or suck, and so we still don't know what's going to happen for number 2. But I'm stoked on that. All-New Wolverine. I mean, I don't know. It just undisputed champion, like that's all there is. But then I'm going to be hitting Starfire for the regular home for Comicosity, and I mean it's Connor Palmiotti with Infinite Loop's Elsa Chaltier is back. So I mean these are like the end times issues, right? Because they're popping off of Starfire, which was always planned. They were never going to do 12 to begin with. That's all they committed to, but. That's the nice thing that a lot of these issues series that are wrapping before Rebirth, they're giving them strong follow-throughs to the end.
Yeah, I mean it's always good to have instead of just like mid-arc. Like Superior Iron Man was one that I thought had a lot of potential with Tom Taylor, but it just.
Well, I mean, and that's kind of what we understand about the Terry Miranda run on Catwoman now. That it was kind of like we didn't know that Rebirth or anything was happening. So it was like, okay, Genevieve Valentine has done her year, and she's up and out and doing BNRE for a bit. So and then Thierry's on, and it's kind of like, okay, well, what's the deal? Now we understand that it was Thierry's job to Thierry Miranda's job to bring it home for Rebirth. So it all makes sense. But again, like this is a solid thing. I would say pick up this arc and trade if you haven't been reading it because it's good stuff. I would keep Thierry on it if Catwoman was sticking around after this. It's another huge issue. Great story. Best, most cohesive art on the team so far. Great reveal in terms of who's actually around it. But there's 2 backup stories in this issue, and one of them is done by Dan Panosian, who we talked about last week. Wanting to see more stuff from him. But because I don't think he's like in paper films, but he's like around those dudes because he's been tight with Dave Johnson for a while. He has a pretty complimentary style, but so we get to see more DC stuff from him. But I honestly, I feel like they should just carry the main story through the whole thing and had a couple guest artists pick up the extra pages, like the guys who did the backup stories, just carry portions of it because this is like. The story you had in Catwoman 50, if you were looking at Bendis Daredevil or Ed Brubaker when he came on afterwards during Civil War, like this could have lasted another 3 to 4 issues of material. They had a shitload of material. They had a strong arc, great characterization, great cameo from Harley and Ivy, and you're just like, man, it feels cut short. I don't know what 51 and 52 are going to be. I'm guessing they're going to finish out the next 2.
That's sad. That's kind of sad.
But I don't know. But I mean, it's good. It's good arc, and even though they're blowing up the title, these guys they're carrying it to the finish line. And the thing is, last time Catwoman had such strong momentum, it just fizzled, right? If you look back at when I guess the previous volume ended, around like after Infinite Crisis or whatnot, long before the New 52, but. When
the Brubaker run?
Brubaker left, And then Pfeiffer was on, and that's just not the kind of storytelling that I liked at all. But when Pfeiffer left, it just kind of veered off and poofed. It was just kind of right. So I mean, at least they're driving to the finish line with strong, solid work, and more than a year of good Catwoman stuff. And I'm stoked for that. The number 52 issue, because that's when they have all the covers from the new 52, right?
Oh yeah, the homages.
Like the first issues to the 52s. And Catwoman was the funniest one, and God bless Inaki Miranda for doing this, because you remember what the number one Catwoman was, the Gilliam March cover.
Oh, just like hanging out with her boobs out and just like
yeah, all that. And like he fixed it so much, like she's zipped up and stuff, but she still got her boots off and she's still lying in this stupid thing. So it wasn't just that her zipper was down that made that cover atrocious. So like he had the toughest job out of anybody to redeem a number one issue, right? I mean, obviously the winner of the 52 is the 52 tribute covers is Babs Tarr. That one is amazing.
Always.
Oh, I screamed.
Can't wait to see what she's getting announced for at ECCC.
Well,
oh my gosh!
The Holy Trinity. The Holy Trinity is there. Right?
Oh well. Speaking of Babs, we may have a guest appearance from Batgirl Burnside herself.
Nice.
Yeah, DC Superhero Girls. I cannot say no. I know I'm not like the audience for it, but I mean, dude, there's like Batgirl Burnside merch out in the wild. Like, yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know how much Matt is the target audience, and I think he's bought at least 2 of everything from that line.
I actually did read an interesting article like years ago about how like Barbara Gordon was like a gay icon. I guess.
I could see that. I think she's just an icon in general. Overall, really.
I know, and she has a cute little backpack. It's amazing. I love it. Yeah.
But what you're talking about, like pre-Killing Joke, like old school Babs, is what you're talking about, right?
I mean, yeah, and for a lot of people. I mean.
Yeah. I could see that because she had those looks, and yeah, that's cute.
It was a long time. I read that article a long time ago, and I'm just like, interesting. I love this character a lot. And yeah, cool.
Babs is kind of an icon for everybody, though, I think. But.
Pretty much. Yeah, except for losers who just see her for the Killing Joke. They should all.
Yeah, but she's still iconic to them. Like, that's the thing. There's nobody who's going to argue that Babs Gordon isn't iconic. They might see her like that for the wrong reasons, but I think what's really interesting is that she just has such a strong universal appeal that everybody, is into some aspect. Like,
yeah, I mean,
yeah, I like the updated, like 35 and up Babs.
She's probably my favorite too. I really like the Babs in the Batman animated series as well. I didn't even mind her in Simone Run. Simone Run was pretty dark, but yeah, I like the character.
I haven't read it, but I do want to catch it at some point. But I mean, to me, by sheer volume, it's Oracle. I mean, when I started reading DC in 2003, it was like the second arc of Simone's run. I picked up 1-2 issues, read a couple back issues, jumped back to Dixon, did the full run, and then came into hers. So, I mean, it's still going to be several years if they keep going with her as Batgirl now. It's still going to be several years before they catch up to the publication volume. Like, the amount of time that Babs spent as Oracle and the number of issues that she was Oracle gigantically outweigh her time as Batgirl. Gigantically. It's not even
Well, as
close.
Batgirl, she was just like a supporting character in Detective Comics. I mean, she didn't even have her own book until the new
I don't know where all those issues in my showcase volume came from, but she had her own stories somewhere. They may have been backups.
Yeah, well, they were backups in Detective Comics.
Fair enough.
But I mean, yeah, but it's cool that they like collected them as like solo stories. So if you wanted to just get it,
it's a great get the showcase. It's dope. I love it.
Yeah, I didn't even know there was one for Batgirl. That's cool.
Oh hell yeah! It's probably one of their most perennial ones. The only ones I have are Legion of Superheroes, Metal Men, and Batgirl, which are all dope. Like the early Legion stuff is so brain damaged in the best way. It's just it's so bizarre. But
I have one of the Batman ones. Like I got Neil Adams to sign it at Con in Jersey.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. Well, speaking of DC, we're going to talk a little bit about Action Comics number 50. This is Terrence's pick this week. I have been following along with Savage Dawn crossover a little bit. But yeah, Action Comics number 50. It was written by Greg Pak and Aaron Cooter, with layouts by Aaron Cooter. There's a lot of people on this title. Pencils by Cooter, David Messina, who's awesome, Xavi Fernandez, Bruno Redondo, Vicente Cifuentes, and then inks by Cooter, Gaetano Carlucci, Juan Albaran, Fernandez, Cifuentes, colors by Tomu Mori, Era Prianto, and Will Quintana. And yeah, there are many cooks in this kitchen.
Yeah, well, because Carlucci was definitely with Messina, because they were the Catwoman team together.
And Midnighter.
I can't believe I didn't recognize them. I was kind of zooming through the issue a little bit, but yeah, probably if I went back and looked closer, I'd been like, yeah, that's them. Who was the first artist who opened the issue?
I think it was Cooter.
Yeah,
that was some dope stuff. I really like that.
Yes, those all the splash pages were beautiful.
Yeah, Cooter can do like big time Superman stuff while also like kind of keeping his humanity a little bit. And
yeah, figurative work was really good. I liked it.
Yeah, and he's really good at just like getting like a big image that like sticks in your head. Like back in 25 when Superman was like in the storm saving people in Gotham, and then like recently with the chains and stopping the cops back, that was like probably the best issue of Action Comics.
That was him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of want to read the whole run because it's been like intersected with crossovers of like Scott Lobdell stuff. So like I've kind of been on and off of Action Comics. So Terrence, you kind of like really big fan of the series. What do you think of issue 50?
If we finally got to the point where he got his powers back, and it was kind of like, okay, yeah, we kind of got to get this train going for 50 and the rest of them coming like next few weeks. But it was a really cool process to get there. Like he like Superman has went through the paces trying to get his powers back. He was kryptonite powered. He used it to like burn off his cells to.
Oh yeah, that was really insane, but like awesome.
Yeah, like it was the funny twist, like, oh, so you use kryptonite now. Okay. Yeah.
They did a good job of kind of like having a quick spitball this issue to explain just what the hell he was doing. So I was like, what? But then, a few pages in, they actually explain. I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then off we go.
Yeah, Action Comics was 50 was more accessible 50th issue than Adventure Time number 50. Oops.
Yeah, no, it was very accessible. I got it. I got the whole thing. It was a little bit too kind of obvious, big scale sort of bye-bye, and him getting his powers back. It was all a little bit too
on the nose, like.
Yeah, but it was accessible. It was open. It was a showcase for not all the art carried through the issue, but there was some great art. But the fact was they wanted to bring him back like this for 50, and they did a solid job of doing it. Like all the stuff that Vandal Savage talks about Superman is core important stuff. I mean, it's like Superman is smart and he does have a plan. He doesn't just barrel through shit, but he does have that tendency to just like take it on and plow through it the way that Savage says it. So I mean, there's a lot of key solid talking points for establishing like this is the core of Superman's character. This is what this dude is underneath it. This is kind of what defines the way that he approaches situations. So there was some solid, it's all around
and there's just
solid. You know?
There's some great little guest cameos too, like Mr. Terrific and
yes.
Somehow Lana Lang and Steel are a couple.
Terrific.
So like Terrence, like what's up with Lana Lang and Steele's relationship? Like how did that happen?
I think that started back in Horrorville story arc. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it started back then. They started, hanging out and seeing, and like it was just like because like they're both right in Superman's life because Lana was his like Smallville sweetheart per se.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then Steel was like his main dude. Then he went all over the world, like actually helping people. And so like yeah, they just found each other. Then I actually like that. At least we're getting Steel. Because the last time I think we saw Steel outside of Action Comics was when he was part of the Suicide Squad for 5 seconds.
Oh, and he was in Justice League United.
Oh yeah, that too.
I think that's because I think like in the first issue, like Vandal Savage takes out the entire Justice League and Justice League United, and I think what's his name, Steel was with the JLU, because that's why like Stargirl was hanging around. But yeah, this has been a pretty decent crossover. Not every issue has been great. Like there's the Superman Wonder Woman ones have been kind of like generic, like Michael Bay blow 'em ups, I guess.
Yeah, and then Superman, I don't know what I was reading with that. That was like, oh my god. Superman, like the main ones was the weakest to me.
Which is kind of sad because Jean Lewin Yang is a great like comics writer.
It's because at first when it first started, I was like, okay, Superman takes place before we're gonna see how Lois actually tricked on Clark. Okay, I got that. And then it actually happened. I'm like, I don't care about Horde or Rude. Don't care about him at all. And then it just kind of started like dwindling, but Action Comics kept it going. So
yeah, I mean, I haven't really been reading Superman, but I've definitely been keeping up with Action Comics. Pack and Cooter are definitely a solid team, and I definitely want to go back and like try to read through their entire run. Just with all there's like been so many crossovers, I guess.
And then I do like how like Action Comics, they built their own little specific guest team, like the Subterrians.
Oh yeah,
Steel and Lana.
Lee Lambert is pretty awesome. She like with their baseball bat.
Me and Lois, like they have their own little outside of like Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman, Superman. They are like Greg and Aaron got their own specific Action Comics guest star team to help out. So that was really cool to see.
Supporting cast, yeah. Yeah, I mean, like the message is basic, just like Superman inspires people. But I mean, it's good enough for me. I mean,
yeah. I mean, the thing is, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. This is a tough era for Superman storytelling. There's a limited amount of what you can do with this guy because, you know, everything is about this mode that I guess probably the culture was going there anyway, but it really got ushered in by Warren Ellis and Mark Millar. Mark Millar obviously is the real backbone of it with his stuff with Hitch, going from, you know, the Authority through into the Ultimates, and then Marvel building the backbone of all their movies off the Ultimates, which is kind of fed back into it. It creates this Ouroboros that this is the era that we're in. You can do dope stuff with some characters like this. Well, Jim Gordon as Batman is in this issue. And it's kind of funny to see him in the Justice League. So, like, when people go back and look at this era of Superman, then you're like, whoa, Robo Batman, what's that? You know, you go back to Snyder and read it, fine, you're in there, right? You're in it. But if you go back and look at Superman in a couple of these Justice League issues, you'd be like, what? You know, it's not like Electric Blue Superman goofy. You know, like it's not like that, but it's just kind of one of those moments. But Superman doesn't fit well in that stuff, right? Because, you know, the kind of key portrayals of Superman that you've ever gotten is kind of like interacting with that kind of military sort of look and hierarchy. Is you've got him being like the tool of the establishment in DKR. You've got him as the tool of the establishment in Superman Red and the Sun, and that's kind of all people know how to do with him in that, because Superman isn't that dude. He's not a cop or a soldier or whatever. He doesn't fit into that. It's not his morality, his style, his look. So you end up with these really jangly portraits of him, like the Snyder stuff. Zack Snyder, like the movies, that just don't work. Like Man of Steel just doesn't work.
Yeah, Superman at all. I mean,
it just doesn't. I don't know what that is. I don't know who Henry Cavill is playing, but he's not playing Superman. I think he probably could have played a good Superman if he was given a shot at doing it, but he hasn't so far. So I don't know. But you know, and that's the thing. So I kind of judge Superman comics differently these days, because I'm like, well, what can you even do? You know, All-Star Superman, Morrison was so far away from the zeitgeist, he could just do whatever. He just take it into a space of its own. But I don't know. If DC said to me, Emma, let's take 6 issues on Action Comics, I'd be like, can I have Supergirl and and like Girl Scouts? Can I
Well,
just
you'll probably get that
plagiarize the
during
TV show? Because
April and May for Super League. Because
I wouldn't.
Supergirl is actually going to come back because Superman's like, oh my God, Kara, you haven't been around in forever. Where'd you go?
Yeah, I wouldn't know what to do.
TV show, they have a thing. That kind of thing.
Yeah, but I mean, I
They
would
text.
say, okay, you know, I'd be like, let's do Lois Lane. Let's follow her being a journalist, right? If they said to me, and then they were like, you know, do something with Superman, I'd be like, no, I'm scared. I don't know how to tell a Superman story in 2016. I just don't.
I do like the social activism angle that sort of they looked at.
Yeah, like they tried.
But then it turned into all kind of like sci-fi, like body horror stuff.
Exactly. They you know, and like Morrison tried it, you know, when he started off the New 52 on it with the jeans and stuff. But I don't know. Maybe if I just listened to some Bernie Sanders speeches and really just stared hard at a Superman poster, I might get something. But initially, I think he's one of the hardest characters to solve and tell relevant stories that are within the wider kind of DC zeitgeist. Like if you asked me to jump on any Gotham book right now, I'd be in it to win it in 5 seconds. It's easy. I get it. I know what the city is right now. You know, live it, breathe it. I can tell those stories. I get them. But Superman, I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, it's difficult.
But that's just me.
And he's a character that people just don't get anymore. But
It's just a tough time for him.
Yeah.
He'll get through it. It's just a tough time.
Personally, I loved it when he was in jeans and a t-shirt wrecking stuff. That's when I liked him the most. Because it was like, because he looks like a normal person, just super.
Yeah, I kind of get that, but to me it's just like, yeah, but we've seen Con-El do that, like, for decades, you know? And, like, if you said, okay, write Con-El, I'd be like, yeah, let's do it, you know? Because he occupies a different space. You know, you tell me, oh, let's do Supergirl. Yeah, I would just, you know, pump up the sugar and have some fun. But Superman,
fun with Red Lantern and Supergirl.
Yeah, I mean, it's also he's just so much of an icon. It's just scary.
Well, Batman's an icon, and I could take him on any day of the week. But
the thing about Batman as an icon is he's
cultural mode right now.
He's so genre malleable. Like
Superman is too, and I think that's a mistake people make that he isn't. I just think
that they do different, like, because like Batman, Superman, they did a story where it was like him and Clark, like Bruce and Clark, like it was actually Clark because he didn't have his power because of the solar flare power that he has. Like he had used it, so for 24 hours he was normal, so he had to get by and fight supervillains as Clark. So they try to, you know, do like, I'm just not Superman.
Well, Tom Taylor is doing a Batman Superman story right now, and it's like kind of like detective mystery of Batman with like a side of the cosmic and a side of the Kryptonian mythos of Superman, like the big scale. And it you know, it's not like the best story ever, but it works. I mean, it's like it's a Batman and Superman team up I would like to see, not them like.
Yeah, but it's a boilerplate.
Comparing dicks before millions of people.
Yeah, but it's a boilerplate story on a side title. Like, I mean, obviously Taylor has strong voices for those characters, but to me, like that's not like if they said, "Here, Tom, do Action Comics," right, and send him off there. Do you know what I mean? Well, maybe, I don't know. You know my opinion on where I think he's best suited right now, but yeah, I don't know. Speaking of which, where he is absolutely killing it.
Yeah, why not? Why not? You know, it's a good transition to All-New Wolverine. Written by Tom Taylor, pencils by David Lopez, inks by Navarat, colors by Nathan Fairbairn, and published by Good Old Marvel. So, Emma, I know you're hyped about this issue, so just let her rip.
Well, I mean, you kind of run out of shit to say in a 6-issue arc that's double shipping. Honestly, because you're just like, well, how many more times can you say that this is the pound for pound best superhero book on the stands? You know, it's tough.
Well, the Ultimates is out there too, so we're not gonna.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying, pound for pound best. right?
Okay.
And so I'm not talking favorites, because if we're talking favorites, like things that really, really light me up in one way or another, then I'm going to start talking about Hellcat or
Yeah.
Batgirl or Black Canary. But
Hellcat.
if I took a book and I said to like 5 completely different people, look at the story, look at the arc, look at the structure, the cohesion, the voice it has for the characters, and how it utilizes the specific history of this character, done.
Yeah.
Over. Good
All-New
luck.
Wolverine, she definitely does it.
And like it's the complete package. I mean, there are some things that other books do better than this book, but there is no such better complete package right now. The only real competition on that score is Batman, but that's because we're ending like a 4-year journey, right? But especially at least at Marvel, you say anything that's come out since the relaunch, All-New Wolverine is the GOAT.
I don't know. I like Ms. Marvel a lot, and plus it's exploring stuff with like interreligious like marriages, and I don't know. Except
cool
the art isn't as good as it used to be, sadly.
A specific sort of a tone. It's its own little world. But yeah, I don't know. I think this is just a really strong, tight, well-executed, fun book that lives in the moment of what superhero comics are, the same way that, say, Batman is, right? Because this is, we're going to be in a deeply saturated world of the military-industrial complex as the primary lens through which we look at superhero comics for probably another few years. We're in it. Got to deal with it. But X-23, like Laura, is a character who can thrive in that environment more than a lot of other characters do because she was born into it. She came out, she was created at almost the very beginning of this era. Well, she came into the comics at the beginning of this era. Evo, like when she made her cartoon debut, a little bit of a different story, but she comes into it primed to be able to handle this stuff, and they go to great, deep emotional places with it. It's strong stuff, and this is the point where, I think that this arc in total, you watch a UFC fight that's going for a while, right? It's not one of these lightning knockouts like a Conor McGregor or an old Chuck Liddell or a what's his face Brock Lesnar match, but something that turns into a bit of a chess match, and there's a lot of tension, where a lot of punches aren't necessarily landing. Nobody's landing combinations. They're kind of feinting, jabbing. There'll be a takedown, it gets stuffed, someone's up against the cage, they get out, and you're kind of sitting there, and it's sort of, where people, the most popular UFC fight ever is the people always love, the iconic one that just looks like a Rocky movie is Forrest Griffin versus Stephen Bonner, the very first finale of the reality TV show, and they're just throwing bombs at each other, just bang, 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 playing bullshit defense. They're just leaving it all out there. It was, and like Dana White will tell you again and again, he said it many times over the years, that the buys, like the people buying into the pay-per-view as it was going, was skyrocketing up because people were watching at home, and they're like, oh my god, this is amazing, you got to see this. Once in a lifetime thing for technique and actual intelligent defense. It's one of the worst fights you're going to watch in your life. But people were like, they were humming the Rocky theme. So what we've got in this arc is it's been that chess match. It's been this kind of, we're building up, we're learning Laura's history, and we're getting all these tough emotional lessons as some of the girls die, and there's these setbacks and things. So there's some funny moments, but everything is still being held back. You're not getting that full what you want out of this. You want the satisfaction of them beating these guys, getting the freedom, and so it's been build up. And now finally, this is the point in the fight where someone's getting gassed. They've dropped their hands, so they just want to spit their mouth guards out and go. And so now the punches are just getting traded, and it's just going all out like that. So there's just a big release of energy this issue that is just, we're here, we're gonna do it. This is what the whole thing's.
Yeah, there's so much anger and just like Lopez
and a
kills
lot of close calls.
Lopez is so good at those like intense faces, just.
And that's where you got to have a team that knows each other, and can really work in the trenches together. Because again, double shipping book on these guys, but and you look at Taylor's stuff in Injustice, and I can't remember who drew those issues, but we always come back to talk about the Harley Quinn Black Canary thing. But if some bullshit artist, some just middle of the road half-style guy had done that sequence, we wouldn't come back to it. You wouldn't see it on Tumblr every 4 days across your dash when someone else discovers the scene.
And it's probably the same team of like Redondo and who's the other guy? Oh shoot, who's the other? There's been a consistent art team on Injustice.
But you need, like, Taylor can know those beats, can live those beats. He could even act it out at home and kind of, or stand in front of the mirror and be like, what would this look like, and act it out. He can do all of that, and he can write it in a script. But he needs the quote unquote actors to be able to bring out the body language, to sell those physical moments. And that's what you have in this team here. That's what he had on Injustice, and that's what he has here, is that you can have all the comedic timing and understanding the world as a writer, but you need the artist to carry the distance. And that's what the Davids do here, and they know how to lay.
There's some great, like, iconic poses of, like, with claws just close enough.
Well, and the whole thing with Laura's feet, they really know how to use Laura's feet in this arc.
Especially the hamstring cut.
Yeah, right. And just the way it's choreographed and the way that they A, always remember that she has them, and B, the different ways to use them, because this has been an arc to distinguish the difference between Laura and Logan in a very specific way, because she's picked up the legacy. She is Wolverine now, but we have to define who she is in Wolverine and how she differs from him. And we've seen Strange talk about it, and we've seen Jan talk about it, the most compellingly, the difference between them, and control and restraint, all these things. But you can talk about it, and then you can do it. And the way that her feet, claws define her, and how she approaches situations and solves problems is a key way to give her own identity without these, Logan was like this, I'm like this. Right,
it's
and you
get like
those keys.
Wrote like compare contrast stuff, which is just boring.
Yeah, and then this is a way for them to really establish who she is and what she does in her own way, and they use them in such a fun way.
And there's just a nice stinger with a new or old foe returning, and her, like, I didn't know who the character was, but it's like basically your Sabretooth, so that's like a good hook for the next arc.
I've seen her around. I haven't read those stories in so long that I was kind of like, I know who you are, but I don't remember you.
I mean, I have every bit of faith in Taylor to, like, create a great story with her and definitely introduce her to newer fans.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because you actually got 3 different perspectives on the whole revenge aspect of the story.
Oh yeah, it was nice she had, like, people to bounce off other than just, like, Angel in the first story. He was just like, he was cool. I mean, he's cool, like. But
he's outside of it. He doesn't get it. Where Belle, she takes the shot. Gabby doesn't. Laura doesn't. And kind of why they did and why they didn't. And the thing is, and I think it was important that, you get the idea that they want to get across the message that what Laura did and what Gabby did was kind of better. It was more elucidated anyway, that this was kind of the key message or moral of this arc, but they didn't do it at Belle's expense. For what she did and why she did it, can you really fault her? No, you can't. But that was a great line. You're the worst at doing what they wanted you to do.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
And it was all about preserving the fact that whichever choice they made, it was finally their own choice, and it was their agency, and that's what this whole thing has been about, is agency, and that it was just really internalized, and they knew it up to the end.
Well, I think a book that definitely has a lot of potential is Mockingbird #1, which came out this week. It was written by. It was kind of there was a one shot and it did well, so it got it ongoing. Written by Chelsea Kane, art by Kate Nimazik, I'm pronouncing that right, and colors by Rachel Rosenberg. So, an all-female creative team.
Yeah, that's.
And then Joelle Jones, who, like, pretty much slayed on Lady Killer for Dark Horse is doing the covers. So yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. I mean, is Brittany Williams doing her own colors on Hellcat?
No, they have her name's shoot. She follows me on Twitter, and her name is like Megan. Oh shoot.
Okay.
But yeah, they have Hellcat has an all-female creative team too.
Yeah, I was trying to.
I was gonna say
so
Megan
this is
Engineered is her Twitter name. She's pretty cool.
okay. Yeah, the colorist on Mockingbird, Rochelle, is it? Sorry, what's her name?
Rosenberg.
Yeah.
Rosenberg.
She did a whole bunch of books during Secret Wars. I was seeing like every couple. I think she did a little bit on Siege. She did some Secret Wars journal as well. I think she was around.
Siege, yeah.
She's been doing a bit. So I mean, it's great to see that they're really cleaning up on having these, well, just all female teams. I mean, obviously you've got a few where there's like a strong ones, like Devil Dinosaur, right? Is Montclair and Reader writing? What's the name of the artist on that one?
Natasha Bustos and then Tamara Bonvillain.
Tamara Bonvillain is on.
It's like mostly. I mean, Montclair and Reader are like, they work well together on Rocket Girl, so it's like kind of a partnership.
Yeah.
Going.
Well, they're like Fletcher and Clunan, really, in that respect. But yeah, point is that they're really coming around and kind of establishing these multi-level teams, where they all bring that together. And the art to me on this one was interesting because it was almost a little bit too much on the side of normal. I was just like, well, this is such a surreal story, but the art is fairly
kind of contrasted, like crazy situation, but we're gonna give you the normal run-of-the-mill panels.
Yeah, and that's the further you get into it, the more you kind of realize that no, yeah, this is what's really making it feel so surreal. Is that the presentation of it? I don't want to say is generic, but the style of it is not totally out there from the way you'd expect from a modern Marvel book. It's a fairly regular execution on art. It's not, Sienkiewicz doing Elektra Assassin.
The art was just so much fun. Like all the Hercules in the clinic, just so much.
Yeah, it really gets into your head. It really gets into your head, the way they paced it and presented it. And you kind of know what's going on or have an idea of it, but it's still, the way that it kind of just still sucks you into this whole cycle that she's trapped in is just...
I think it'd be even better if I didn't have the thought of Mockingbird having her own spin-off TV show on ABC. I would love it, this issue, that much better.
Yeah, see, I didn't really have that issue. I always forget about it. I like what's her face?
Adrienne
that was in. Yeah, she's gonna be fun. She's cute. I like that they have somebody tall that she's different. She has that physical presence that you just don't really see them casting a lot of these characters in, which is interesting because of course she did that Wonder Woman pilot years ago. So
that was so bad.
It was, but she had the kind of definitely at least had the physical presence for it.
Let's get the showrunner of Boston Legal to do Wonder Woman. Yeah.
I don't know if that would have. I mean, there's some reasons why you might think those people do well, but the costume certainly was.
No. I'm just saying it just seemed like really mismatched.
Yeah.
And
yeah. They should have given him Manhunter.
Yeah. Manhunter or Gotham. Or Renee Montoya. Because David E. Kelly did L.A. Law and.
That's what I'm saying. Manhunter. Yeah. Throw a lawyer in there. Just do it, right?
I think She-Hulk. I mean, he could do She-Hulk easily.
Yeah, but they were looking at DC. That was my joke a few years ago on. I wrote this thing on Tumblr. That was you could present. You could give two different networks the same pitch, and you just alter the names and a couple of the details, so that you'd end up pitching Manhunter to one network and She-Hulk to the other, and it's effectively the same pitch, and it's just as obvious of a sell, and yet nobody's doing it. But no, it
like
was
the powerless comedy DC's gonna do.
yeah. I don't know.
It's
I'm,
The
I'm, I'm,
Office,
I'm
but
only
with
gonna.
superpowers. That I love The Office, so combine that with some superpower references, I
I
might
mean,
be
I'm
down
only
with
in
it.
just because the cast got Alan Tudyk and Danny Pudi from Community. Like, I'm gonna definitely check it out
Yeah,
for the
that
cast.
too.
I hate The
Cool,
Office
cool,
and hate
cool.
Community, so.
Emma, what
um,
do you enjoy outside of the sunshine? Good
you know
grief.
what I like. I like American Crime Stories, Scandal, How to Get Away with Murder, good stuff.
Okay, How to Get
Anything,
Away with
so-
Murder. I'll take that one.
anything soapy and lurid and fun.
Oh wow, you used the S word. Please don't. Ouch.
Hey, there's
Yikes.
nothing wrong with soapy. This is a guy who
Oh,
just like
ouch! Use the S word again. Oh,
I said there was
that
nothing
burns.
wrong with it.
Ooh.
It's not a bad thing. It's like an adjective. Gosh.
Yeah, no, it's an adjective. It's not a good one. I don't like it. It's not a good adjective. Because it just diminishes. Because it just diminishes and flattens the idea of romantic intrigue and stuff, and relationship dramas, the one they can actually be fully dimensional and good.
Yeah, like
That
they go through some serious stuff on How to Get Away with Murder.
yeah, that's not the S word. Yeah, that the How to Get Away with Murder does not use the S word. I'm not into that stuff. But no, it's just I thought it was so interesting about Mockingbird. One of the things is that it strikes such a wild balance between being really, really hard-nosed realistic and being really, really surreal, and there's no chill between them.
See,
And I
this
think
this
that
issue had no chill at all.
it had such a fantastic effect because it opens and she's just telling you about, you know, this is what it's like to have your healthcare administered by the government. And a lot of what she says in that opening bit, how much do you have to adjust it to talk about a
And she
real
just like
person?
randomly brings a dog and just
Well, that's all later, right? But I mean that her opening thing talking about, um, uh, talking about she has to get these weekly checkups and kind of and drawing blood and all this kind of stuff, is that it all hits on very hard nosed real world stuff. I mean, healthcare is a gigantic employment issue for every single American in this country, right? It is, and especially women's access to healthcare is another huge issue. So honestly, in the back of the heads of every woman reading this issue is going to be some healthcare thing or another. Everybody's going to have that kind of, dealing with whoever their HMO is in their head when they read this. But it's also presented in a way that just, hi, I'm in the context of a world with superheroes and junk, but I'm discussing this the way that you do, the way that your friends would, the way that you would see this
yeah.
talked
I mean,
about.
what's his name? Doug Zawiza, who's like a really good reviewer for Comicosity, like kind of compared it to Hawkeye in that way. But like Hawkeye had that like just architecture and the art that just it was like, I mean, he's doing mundane stuff like doing cookouts and stuff, but it's like this is like really it's constructed art. Like you definitely pay attention to the structure when you're reading Hawkeye.
And that's the thing, because we're taught to, because of the way that that David Aja draws. But the thing about Mockingbird is that they draw you away from construction with the colors and with some of the details in the surroundings of the art and the personality of the art. That you don't read it as being that structured, but it is. It's just as carefully thought out and carefully structured as anything that Aja did on Hawkeye. And Hawkeye is a very interesting counterpoint to this series that we can't really say anything about, won't be able to for at least another 2 to 3 issues. But there is a bit of a counterpoint involved, because we do get a lot of how storytelling rides on her personality to a certain degree. And she's presented as having a personality that's that much different from what we're used to, the same way that Fraction did when he introduced Aja. But what's interesting to me is that this story, when you're reading it, what's engaging you, what's driving you, is the only all-new, all-different title and the only Marvel title in at least a year, if not 2 or 3, that starts off by selling us a situation and not the person, right? I mean, we get Bobby, we learn a bit about her and her personality, but you don't spend the issue being like, hey, I'm now buying into the cult of personality of this version of Bobby Morse. The way that you read Hawkeye, and all of a sudden everybody's calling the title Hawk Guy, or the way that you're like, Squirrel Girl or Hellcat, or do you know what I mean? You're not.
But I like that kind of stuff. But I like that kind of stuff.
I'm not saying I don't like that kind of stuff. I like that kind of stuff too. But this doesn't do that. It doesn't. Like, you're like, what the fuck is going on? What is the story? What is
like a
happening?
5-issue puzzle box. Like
it's a whole other deal. Welcome. It's the mode of storytelling, and the goal of the issue is so radically different. Hellcat tricked us. Hellcat was a great shell game because it did exactly the same thing that Fraction did on Hawkeye, that Wilson did on Ms. Marvel, that North did on Squirrel Girl, that Zdarsky did on Howard the Duck, which is sell you an idiosyncratic vision of a character. But the brilliance of what Kate Leth did was she played enough of a shell game that we're like throwing this whole superhero shit out the window. We barely care about that. This is about a girl who needs to pay the rent or whatever, right? It's more. There's more than that, right? But she throws the whole like, where does superheroing come in, or where does the fight come in, completely out the window. But she's still selling you the cult of personality of her and Brittany Williams' vision of Hellcat, right? So it's a great little shell game by drawing your attention somewhere else. But what Mockingbird does is just says fuck you and upends the table, and we're into a style of storytelling that we haven't seen in quite a while. Because I mean, even Warren Ellis does it on Karnak, right?
He's like, I don't want you to look.
Finally, issue 2 is out. Finally.
Right, but
yeah, no one likes Karnak.
No, but he's still selling you Karnak. You're not supposed to like him, but
yeah, like Moon Knight, he just does his job and goes.
Yeah, but that's what but Warren Ellis is still selling you Karnak as this nihilistic asshole. That's the cult of personality is still what he's selling you, not the puzzle box of this situation, the way that you would think it would be. In Karnak, it isn't. Ellis is doing the same thing that all those other guys do, which again is a good thing, and it's working out gangbusters. But Mockingbird is flipping the script in a very interesting way.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, but it's good, Marvel's trying out different things and different styles.
And I mean, again, like, I don't think that the Poison Ivy mini is doing any justice to what Amy Shu can do as a writer, and I think if they had gotten her a more animated artist, then especially the second issue for sure would have been a lot stronger, because the comedic points would have landed effectively. But one of the things that they did in Poison Ivy that really set it up to fail in the concept was she's Poison Ivy, she has a job that has a relevance to a certain aspect of the female readership that's underexplored, and it unfolds as a workplace drama that has superhero elements built into it. Let's put Poison Ivy into a STEM field and have to deal with the things that women in STEM field jobs deal with. Yeah, okay. And it's just sort of you're kind of 6 months to a year too late to still tell the story and have it come off fresh, because we've been doing this. I mean, technically speaking, we've been doing it for like a decade. If you want to go back to, we were talking about Manhunter earlier, Mark Andreyko stuff. But right now, it's kind of, that's the formula. Get a woman, give her a job, have her fight crime on the side, and have the job be this whole arena.
Or just have her be completely just uninterested in it and have Alias.
Right, but it's just kind of, that's where Poison Ivy got stuck on that treadmill. Where
Poison Ivy is just a cult.
Can't stand Poison Ivy League.
She's a great character, but she's just been tainted by her fans.
No, that's not true at all. The writers don't think about them when they do.
I know. No, I'm not saying like they do, but I'm just saying like just my personal enjoyment of her.
It doesn't touch any of that for me. But if I worried about a fan base at all, even a tiny bit, whenever I read or thought about anything, you certainly will never see me draw another piece of
I don't care. I don't care. I mean, I gave the review I gave it, knowing that somehow these people like would find it and then would accuse me of like so many things. But whatever. Like, oh, you're not sex positive enough.
There's no sex in that book.
Yeah, it's like.
I don't know. Anyway, but my only point is that they really set themselves up to fail by giving her that generic setup that we've kind of been seeing. And so I like to see that, that Chelsea Kane is up to the number one, she's up to the job. Number two, that Marvel let her be up to the job on this. So I think there probably are some parallels to Hawkeye to be had here, but they're not the obvious ones. It's like the way that people Doug is a whip smart reviewer, and he didn't, and he's done Hellcat for us too. And we talked about Hellcat. I mean, I kind of, I narrow my eyes in a little bit, and he's like, I'd love to see Brittany Williams do more fight scenes, and I'm just like, no, go away, Doug, don't do that, don't go down that road, And he's not saying that he wants it to be a generic superhero thing, but he still kind of carries a little bit of that bag, and he's like, I'd like to see Brittany Williams do more fights. Yeah, I can see that. I want to see her do more range of a lot of things. But he didn't fall into the trap of saying, this is like Squirrel Girl, or,
and that's just
leaning heavily into the other Will Moss books, right? He took Hellcat on its own terms, but he still kind of looked at that and understood that it's often its own space. It's so far away from a conventional superhero story that he wanted to see a bit more of that conventional thing.
I like that it's so. I mean, it speaks 100%. To me. I mean,
yeah. But so when we're talking about Hawkeye and Mockingbird, and we're going to be talking about Hawkeye and Mockingbird a lot. Everybody is that this is the psychic resonance this book has. The beginning. This is how people are going to approach it.
I mean, people are going to be talking about Hawkeye for decades to come. I mean, it's like.
Well, but what I mean is like the way that this book is going to be received relative to the way that the Fraction Hawkeye was when it first came out. This is the touchstone for Mockingbird. This is the psychic energy they have to deal with. But to me, it is going to signal a big change. And what you can do on a solo title if it takes off in the sales, which I certainly hope it does because it's dope. But I don't think it's doing any of the things that Hawkeye did. It's showing the same very careful attention to craft, and there's actually some very interesting parallels between Kane's writing and Matt Fraction's, but not on Hawkeye. Because we kind of see her get deeper and deeper into. And this is the thing: is we don't see the world outside of the Shield facility.
Oh, it's like so. I mean, this book's so it's like a bottle episode of a TV show.
We assume. Well, I don't know if we should say we assume, but it seems like there's an assumption there that she's leaving and returning, and she's doing things in the middle, but we don't see those. So my contention is that she's not left whatever this place is. My other contention is that this is not a purely physical place she's in. But not quite so important. The key thing, one of the touchstones of this issue to me, is that sex criminals issue. When I can't remember what the characters' names are, but when the dude John goes back on his medication.
Easily one of the most popular names ever.
Do you know how long it's been? At least 6 months since I've read an issue of Sex Criminals.
I think it's when the last issue even came out. Like I don't even know.
Not that long ago. It's. But anyway,
it's more recent, yeah. It looks hard to remember, yeah.
But anyway, so when he's narrating through, being on that medication and how it was just kind of altering his perception of things, I really, really felt that in this issue of Mockingbird because things are getting more and more surreal, and her level of what she's willing to accept, unquestioningly, is ramping up at the same time. So her kind of perception of the situation, her willingness to question anything is going down as the surreality of the situation is going up. And so there's this dissonance because the dog appears and she starts moving the dog and this kind of stuff. And so it feels like she's doped up and you feel like you're doped up. You feel like you're underwater in this whole thing. And so
and then there's that like editorial page at the end, that it knows that you're just like completely confused.
I mean, to me, one thing that I thought was really interesting is how much of it, the design is like kind of 60s, like 60s or 70s, like you first see in the carpet, right? When she's walking down the hallway when you first see her. And then you see it on the wall when she's talking to the guy who does the parapsychology shit. But you see that there's this like 1960s, 1970s kind of vibe playing out across the whole thing, and all the stuff kind of builds from it. But Old Boy is something that I was thinking of a little bit. In him being trapped in that place. But he knew he was trapped in one room, right?
Yeah.
It's my opinion, I think, is that she's in the Hellfire Club right now.
Oh, I wish.
This is all some kind of a psychic feedback loop that she's trapped into.
Oh my god.
That's my opinion. This is the kind of shit you would see like Jason Aaron do in his X-Men run, or Fraction didn't really play with it. Morrison did, but do you know what I mean? This is one of those kind of, she's been trapped in that Scarecrow episode of Batman the Animated Series when Scarecrow.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, which we don't. But the thing about it is, like, it's like unresolved. So
I think that's what this is. So we're gonna line up an issue 2, and it's gonna have something to do with someone having trapped her in that feedback loop that she's got to break out of. That's what I think is going on here. I could be wrong, but that's the thing, is that it asks more questions than it answers, which is what a #1 issue should do, and it really leaves you like, what is this? You're just completely flat-footed. It's a lot of fun. I want to see where they go with it. I'm excited for it.
yeah. So this week they announced the Lumberjanes. We're just gonna close with this.
Yeah.
Lumberjanes Gotham Academy intercompany crossover, which I'm like, how did this ever happen? And like, so I was thinking like, what were some like intercompany crossovers that you would get, like we haven't seen before, that you guys would want to see, and maybe possible creative teams, if and this could be anything, as long as it's not like Jack Kirby doing like a Batman Predator crossover. Like no dead people.
No dead people. Jeez, that's prejudicial.
I don't know. Like I thought of like Kirby doing like a Batman Scooby-Doo crossover. Oh.
It would be that there's a pup.
I know. This episode just became like super cute.
I guess it would be super like radical 60s politics, because I mean, yeah, Jack Kirby probably would do that. But you just broke your own rules, so good job.
Yeah. Oh, so like Terrence, you had some like ideas before the show, right? About like Valiant. Terrence?
He fell asleep on us.
Oh shoot.
I'm guessing.
I wanted to hear like who you wanted to team up, like Valiant. Well, mine is like would never ever happen, but if it did happen, it would like be the greatest comic ever made. Wictiv and the Invisibles.
That would be the worst comic ever made.
Why?
Because it wouldn't. How would you just? It's redundant. It's just. I'm sorry, it's redundant.
It would find a way. They would find a way to work. Grant Morrison and Gillen and McKelvey in a room would find.
I'm sure they would come up. Well, those guys in the same room could come up with something interesting. I just don't think that it would be a Wictiv and Invisibles crossover. I don't know. I just sorry no. Because like the Invisibles did that stuff that the Wictiv is doing, that people are like, hey, let's do that. Like the old Pantheon and stuff. The old Fantheon stuff. It's like they had all that from the 30s or the Romantic era or whatever. They did that stuff in the Invisibles. It's, I don't know, it'd be a little too redundant. What else you got?
That was my big idea.
Wow.
I think Deadpool would work with anything, pretty much.
Yeah, that's kind of... Deadpool's kind of like... He can be like the Minions t-shirt of stuff, though.
I want him to, like, show up in, like, just, like, sex criminals or something. No, you know what I want?
You're losing me.
I want... I was talking about this the other day, like, Alias and Stumptown to cross over. Like, Rucka and Bendis to co-write it and get a Lark on art. Or just Rucka to write it. I mean...
I don't know. I'm having trouble with that one too. It would just be another Stumptown character who just has some baggage from somewhere else.
And powers.
You're just doing stuff that's all too similar. I think that's one of the big problems of what you're offering to me is there's no tension. No, how does this jive? It's just kind of.
It's mostly I want Greg Rucka to write Jessica Jones because I think he would be.
Yeah, but that's all. Yeah. No, give me like a crossover. You read the James Tynion Ninja Turtles stuff, right? With Batman. Something that's got a vibe, like a thing to it.
I want Deadpool and Looney Tunes.
Okay, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I think you've shot yourself on the foot with most of these.
But
well, the joke that I made when they announced the Lumberjanes one, I said you got to do Giant Days and Batgirl.
That'd be so much fun.
I guess it wouldn't really, because it'd be kind of dumb to try to see those characters interact with the superhero stuff. But I mean, John Allison and the art team on Giant Days would be fun to draw. And
I know the Lumberjanes
characters.
How are the Lumberjanes gonna work in Gotham? They're gonna be like scared to death.
Well, they're not. They're probably just gonna. My assumption is that this entire crossover is going to take place at the camp.
No, it's in Gotham.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, geez, I figured they would just send them off to camp.
Oh my god, chill, dog.
Send the Gotham children.
No, they're gonna be in Gotham. They're gonna be scared to death.
Okay. Well, I'd scared to death. Jesus, they've said dinosaurs and like three-eyed foxes and mermaids and all kinds of stuff. They're hardcore lady types. They'll survive.
Okay, it'll be fun. Like, I can't even wait. I don't even know how this. It's just I'm still processing.
I was more concerned about if Olive was going out to the woods. She's not really the woodsy type.
That's why they're not going to the woods. They're being Gotham.
Yeah, I was hoping more that they would send the Gotham kids out to the wilderness. The maps, like, this whole thing is clearly going to hinge on Maps, because Maps is like the bridge character. She, like, I made the joke earlier that people are just going to forget that she actually came from Gotham Academy and that she wasn't a Lumberjanes character to start with, because she might as well be in that way. She just is one.
She just does not seem like a DC character, which is totally cool.
I don't know how much I would agree with that, but I would say that she's certainly more suited to the Lumberjanes world, for sure.
Her and Ripley are just going to be the best friends ever.
Yeah, and they're going to cause a shitload of trouble for everybody else.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe I'm talking. Like, I don't even know. How did this happen? Like,
what's the name of their like camp counselors? Is it Jen? Is that her name?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jesus, I don't envy her.
I mean, I was like, did you and Boom ever even teamed up before?
Ninja Turtles is IDW, so I'm going to say no.
Because, like, I know IDW is, like, play with
Except they have so many licenses that can compel this shit to happen. Like,
I know Boom's done, like, good stuff. Like, Star Trek and Planet of the Apes is pretty good. What else? I'll look at list of intercompany crossovers, just because.
I think I did have an honest idea. I'm just trying to think of what the hell it was now. Well, I think it probably is just the Spider-Gwen Batgirl. Like, just get some DC Marvel stuff going again.
Yeah.
Have some of that stuff play. And I don't know how impossible that really is. I mean, back in the Joe Quesada, Dan DiDio days, where, like, when those two were the top guys and they're really trying to have those larger-than-life attitudes at the top of the company, yeah, no, they weren't going to get.
Well, I think it was also because of what's his name, Bob Wayne, who did the sales but he's gone now.
Yeah, But Quesada and DiDio did not get along, and they kind of intentionally didn't get along. So, with Axel on the one side and the kind of, I guess the junta, or whatever the hell you want to call the setup at DC, where it's Jim Lee and DiDio and Johns are all kind of in those whatever roles.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not seeing any DC Boom crossovers. It's like,
I think, especially with Jim Lee being one of the key guys, and Johns even so. I mean, Johns, like, he's done Marvel stuff, but he's Mr. DC at this point. But those guys, I think, they don't have that old school publishing attitude of, it doesn't seem to me like they just want to stick there and they wouldn't want to try something. They seem to be guys that, even if they have bad ideas, they want to try stuff. They want to try stuff.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's a Marvel Attack on Titan. Like, Marvel's like.
Yeah, that looked like it would suck. But
I think that was really just for money.
Yeah, that's the only motivation there. I don't understand that. Hey, what's the top selling manga right now? I mean,
there's a Spider-Man Red Sonja crossover a while back, which I don't even know if it was even any good.
Yeah, and I don't see. That's the thing, is that a lot of these things that just seem so dissonant, that how do you pull a coherent story out of it? Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Yeah, I mean, I like to have just some indie books just party together. Like, I don't know, like the Phonogram Squad end up in the Marvel universe and die in like 10 pages.
No, you could have some more fun with that. I can't really think of what it would do.
Like Hellblazer and like fun.
No, they would no. No. Like the Phonogram stuff, you'd want to go to Cornell and like the MI13 crap, because that's
I want to see Phonogram and like Hellblazer. It would be cool.
That's a little too hard and dark, and the Doyle Tinian stuff is sort of doing that in their own way already. I think if you went over to Marvel, the MI13 stuff, because that's where they would do all those outlandish jokes about the British sort of what do you call it? Not mass unconsciousness, collective unconscious, right? And they had these really kind of he was really playing with the subconscious of England. Remember that Captain Midland's asshole?
Oh my gosh,
that guy was amazing, and what his like nightmare.
Gillen did that in that one arc of Journey into Mystery, where Loki goes to England.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of where you sort of where you do these goofy parodies of Alan Moore's Captain Britain stuff, right? Where you bring the multiverse and kind of the British collective unconsciousness into play. That's because you remember the first first arc of Phonogram, when they went in and he kills Britannia, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
That's the sort of where in superhero comics you would go to do something that batshit. You would play with that. I mean, even if you look at Psylocke, at Betsy, you had stuff like Phil Noto doing those drawings of her back in they were supposed to be back in the day. She's got like the Joy Division T-shirt and stuff. That's like the Braddocks and all that kind of stuff. I think that's where you go to have some fun with that kind of thing. I mean, you can, like, Top Cow can play with anybody, really, and they sort of did. Like, they actually had they didn't write it the way you want for a coherent story, but they had, what was it, like Daredevil and Elektra? No, I'm sorry, Batman and Elektra and Witchblade or something at one point. It was a weird mix that they pulled in together on that.
Yeah, I mean, when you go in that Wikipedia article, there's all like kind of Witchblade, Vampirella,
Yeah, I talked about that last week, didn't I?
Yeah.
But
I want a Buffy and Vampirella crossover. I mean, I'm surprised they haven't done that.
Yeah, I don't know about
that.
It
seems something just obvious. Like, I would do it, and haven't they done it at all?
But I think a Witchblade DC or Marvel crossover with the right characters wouldn't be too bad. That would be so.
But I mean, is there even appeal? I mean, I guess there's still a fandom for that, but.
What do you mean? You guess for Witchblade?
Yeah.
Oh, geez, yeah. Well, they just had Cedric doing Switch. Tim Seeley just had a run. Ron Mars had that big run. I think people sleep on how effective of a fan base Witchblade is. I mean, they're probably building towards some big return, and you get the right person on that book, and it will soar. I think, comics has always been prepped for a huge Witchblade run that just has never clicked for whatever reason. But if you get a hotshot writer on there with solid art and a strong direction,
they tried to do his Spawn, but it didn't even work out.
Yeah, no, but I think there's some real, because I mean, you look at, especially if you look at Image, kind of the moves they pulled on some of those characters that you're like, why would you even touch these again? And they go nuclear hot. Like Brandon Graham, came on a Prophet. I mean, it's not. I mean, Prophet isn't selling hundreds of thousands of issues or something, but he's turned it into this real boutique book.
It's like critically acclaimed. I mean.
Yeah. Look at Joe Keating and Sophie Campbell on Glory. That was ill. That was an amazing book.
Rob Liefeld just like throws stuff out, and then people like make better things out of his stuff.
Yeah, but that's his entire career, and God bless him for it, because there's something there that he's doing that's right. Because you had Warren Ellis' Supreme Blue Rose, that goes back to him too, doesn't it?
Yeah, and even just like Deadpool and Cable and Domino, and I mean.
Well, I mean, that stuff had Nicieza in it from the jump. That wasn't just Rob, but all of Rob's Image stuff. I mean, you had Alan Moore way back, like even back in the '90s. You had Moore coming up and doing stuff with it. You had, and a lot of stuff that Jim Lee did with the Wildcats. I mean, geez, like look, Ladytron was in Grayson not long.
Yeah, I mean those Wilds. There's like a really just like those. I haven't really read much Wildstorm, but like definitely, I mean, there's definitely room in the DC. Like they're definitely, it's cool they're exploring it in the main DCU.
Well, did you ever do any Gen 13?
No.
Gail Simone had a Gen 13 run that it wasn't amazing. It was, I think, right before she did Welcome to Tranquility. It was in that kind of weird zone.
Yeah, well, like Wildstorm was like before my like. I got into comics just as Wildstorm was like done.
When they like folded it, okay, because that wasn't. Yeah, okay, so you probably wouldn't.
Yeah, Wildstorm has never been like a play. I mean, I know about them. They just never really been. Because I remember people making a big deal that like the Wildstorm characters were going to be in the New 52.
Yeah.
But that was about it. I'm like, oh, cool. Like this other company, nice.
Yeah, I think pulling the Gen 13 characters into some kind of a. Actually, that would be a good crossover, or I guess just fold Gen 13 into the New 52.
Yeah, I mean, there have been rumors for years, like there was going to be like all these various waves that there's going to be a Gen 13 book, but like, that hasn't happened yet.
I think Simone was probably the last writer to do a Gen 13, and it was good, but she was at a transitional stage. So you actually, if you read something like Clean Room, there's a lot of like the raw ideas she was starting to play with back then that are actually really coming into focus there, and on like leaving Metropolis and stuff. But yeah, I think having the Gen 13 kids do something, but or the Spider kids, I think would be fun to do something with at Marvel. Spider-Gwen Batgirl, it's not that hard. That's kind of a key one.
Definitely. So yeah, those are any company crossovers, and we're just gonna wrap up this episode. Maybe going on hiatus for a little while, but definitely gonna be back to talk Batman v Superman, C2E2, the Rebirth creative teams, Daredevil season 2. Lots of stuff coming.
No, we're not gonna talk. Are we? Daredevil, really?
Yeah, of course.
All right. I'm gonna take a nap that issue.
I mean. We'll at least mention it, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. We might do a special episode. We might not. Probably. I mean,
if you do replace me with somebody who actually wants to talk about it,
it'll be like what we do with Jessica Jones. But yeah, sorry, housekeeping. Yeah. So you can find me at Sexy Nerd on Twitter. I'm gonna have a few articles out this week. Close up the week, so that should be fun.
And I'm Mhugwa. You can find me at EMMAHOUXBOIS on Twitter. Doing a couple stuff with Pop Arctic, doing some stuff with the home team this week. Yeah, I'm always around.
1, 2, 3, 4, click.